Hello YouTube, welcome back to my channel, and if this is your very first time, welcome. I'm Bonnie, Old Soul Mermaid, and today we are going to continue looking at my deck collection 2020. So I published my first video of my deck collection last week, I believe, a look at all the U.S. Games decks that I have in my collection, all the U.S. Games published decks. Now in this video we are going to be looking at my Red Feather. I guess they are a subsidiary of Schiffer Publishing. Don't have as many of those as I do the U.S. Games deck. Now in my last video I did neglect 2 or 3 U.S. Games decks, so I'm going to tack those on at the end of this video because I don't have a ton of decks by Red Feather. So let's get started. So the very first one I have by Red Feather, and I'm choosing to do this by publisher or grouping my decks in categories because just doing 1 or 2 long videos I think would be too daunting and you'd all get bored. So I'm going to try to keep it a little more interesting by grouping them in categories. Don't know how many videos it's going to be, but here we go. All right, the first one by Red Feather that I have in my collection is this tarot, The Spirit Within Tarot by Stephen Bright. I can't remember if I've done an unboxing of this deck or not. It's been a while, but it's a very, very minimalistic deck. Oops, lost a card. There is Mr. Stephen Bright, and it's a nice magnetic closure box, which is always nice for a mass market deck. And this is a mass market deck, obviously. And it has those ribbons that Red Feather is known for. All right, so here is the deck itself. Comes with a nice semi-chunky little book with a picture inside. This deck is glossy, so if you know Rockpool and Schiffer Oracle decks, it's got a gloss to it. It is not gilded, and these are the backs. But the thing I love about this deck is the size. It's bigger than a pocket tarot, you know, or a mini pocket tarot or a tarot in a tin. But do you see? It's a little, I would say it's a little bit shorter than a traditional tarot deck. And that's something that I really like about this deck. It's very minimalistic, but it does follow the RWS system. Sorry about bumping that. And if you watched my unboxing of the tarot book by Tina Gong, I just published that a couple of days ago. I don't know when I'm going to publish this video, but if you see that video, I did mention that that was a book that came with a deck of tarot cards, and that aesthetic reminded me of this with the silhouettes and the minimalistic art. And that's not to say that you can't get a powerful reading with minimalistic art. And sometimes I have a lot of decks that are that have a lot of intricate art. And then I have a few that are more pared down, like this one. And sometimes I find that decks like these are a great palette cleanser. I did have somebody mention in the comments of my Tina Gong book that the cards were a little bit, she thought, too minimalistic to get an in-depth reading, but that she thought that it would be great for pairing with a bolder deck. And I tend to agree, at least, with, you know, pairing a deck like this with something a little bit more vibrant or intricate. But this gives you all you need, and I love that they're at a sewing machine in this 8 of Pentacles. I have a couple of decks where they're sewing, and those are always my favorite. Knight of Swords. So yeah, you get all you need. If you're a beginner and if you have a little bit of experience with the RWS, or even if you don't, you could totally read tarot with a deck like this. And I found that I've got very good readings with it. You know, just because a deck is very minimalistic and pared down, sometimes stripping it down, you can get the best readings. It just depends. All right, so that is The Spirit Within Tarot by Stephen Wright. Now we are going to have to zoom up a little bit because this box is quite large. And this next one, I do have a full unboxing of it. I'm going to move some things off. It is the Shadowland Tarot by Monica Bergerski, and I do have a full unboxing of this beautiful set on my channel. But you get this gorgeous guidebook, chock full of information, colored pictures, so you don't need your deck while you're reading the book in bed, if that's something you like to do. The box insert is good because the cards will not, it's totally enclosed. The cards will not go sliding all around. It's gilded. There is some wear. I've used this deck a lot, and there is some wear on the gilding. It's not going to be that sort of gilding that's going to, you know, stay forever. But I haven't had it chip either in big flakes, which is nice. So I'm hoping it'll just end up with a nice patina. I do love the imagery. Monica Bergerski has done a Lenormand deck. I don't have that though. And these are the wonderful backs. This deck is meant for shadow work, but I found that you could do any kind of reading with this deck. It's done with humor, so it's not overly overwhelming. Let me see if I can get just a little bit closer. A little bit tongue-in-cheek with the humor. I have seen other unboxings with this. I love this little poppet, poor thing. Some people have been able to bond with it. Some people have not. I find this deck enchanting, and I enjoyed when it first came out, I worked with it for about a month. I love the little poppets. And I found that you could do any kind of reading with it. I worked with the book. The book is wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. And it is a non-threatening way to work with your shadow. I quite like the cardstock with this. Again, some people don't like it. It's a super matte. I would say these are standard tarot size. Maybe a little bit more narrow. Maybe just a fraction of an inch more narrow. But basically traditional tarot size. I do love the cardstock, the matte feel of this. The whole production of this deck is, you know, very close to an indie production, I would say. Except if the gilding were a little bit higher quality, I would say this is right up there with an indie deck in production. And you can see the whimsical little creepy figures. I think they are adorable. Again, a nice non-threatening way to work with your shadow. So this is the Shadowland Tarot by Monica Bergerski. Mass market. You can get this on Amazon, just like the Spirit Within Tarot by Stephen Wright. I got both these decks off of Amazon. Love them. All right, here's another one that's brand new to my collection. Now, I did an unboxing for this deck, and I'm going to zoom up again a while ago, and then I was without the deck because I returned it because of production quality. And it is the Dark Goddess Tarot by Ellen Lorenzi Prince. And this just came back into my collection. So right after I did the unboxing, I returned the deck, and I will show you why. Now again, this is gorgeous, gorgeous, you know, a gorgeous, gorgeous kit with the book. But when I got mine, initially, the cards were all spilled. This plastic band was open. See, I just got this. I haven't taken it out yet. So, the box had it to where it was not enclosed here, so the cards went sliding through, and some of my cards, a brand new deck, sealed, the cards were underneath and they were all over the place. The band was broken, and I sent it back to Amazon. And then I noticed that they probably got lots of complaints about that, and they took it off of Amazon, and now it's back on. I have it. It looks like Schiffer fixed the problem. Now, this problem is common with red feather Schiffer decks, and I will show you another one that had that problem as well. But they fixed it, and I guess I'll take the band off right here and now. Now, this deck seems to have the same gilding as the Shadowland Tarot. So it's, with heavy use, it's not going to stand the test of time. Hopefully it's not going to flake off, you know, in big chunks, and it will patina nicely with heavy use. But this is a glossy cardstock, just like, you know, Oracle decks, Rock Pool, Schiffer Oracle decks. And many of you are familiar with these images. Haven't worked with the deck yet because I just got it back in my collection because of the problems. Yeah, and I had one of my cards was bent and there was a big chip in it, and I was, yeah, not happy. And you can watch my unboxing and see some of the problems. It was, yeah, I didn't edit it out. I just told you what I saw and what I thought. This is not sticky with the gloss, but there is, you know, it's a glossy cardstock. What I'm really, really interested in working with is the book with this deck. So I can't really tell you how it reads because I got rid of it as soon as I got it, and now I just have it back in my collection, and I'm so happy. I plan to work with this, I hope, this winter. It seems like a good dark month deck to work with. Yeah, light and shade here. That's what it's about. All right, so that is the Dark Goddess Tarot by Ellen Lorenzi Prince. And the last deck that I have, that I think I have, from Red Feather, and we are going to zoom up again, is the Marielle Tarot. This is the second edition, I think 2.0, because when they initially came out with the first mass market edition of this deck, I believe it had black edging. Black edging, and it was totally opened again in the in this insert. So they redid the insert, and the version I have is the upgraded insert, so the cards don't go sliding in. And I have silver edges instead of the black edges, as you can see. So this hasn't been too long in my collection, and I haven't really worked with it yet. Again, I view it as something, and these are the backs, the well-known backs. Something I plan to work with shadow work again. Something I would like to work with in the dark months. I got an excellent deal on this deck as it was brand new in plastic at my local used bookstore, Half Price Books. And many of you are super well familiar with this deck, but in case you're new to tarot, this is the Marielle Tarot, 2nd edition. It was an indie deck, and a couple of the cards have been changed. I know some people are very unhappy with that, but since I didn't have the original version, you know, I'm okay. I find these images very haunting, and I can't wait to do a deep dive with this deck and using the book. Definitely using the book. You can see they are sticking together a little bit from the gilding. Now, cardstock wise, I would say it's a satin. It's got a little bit of a coating. It's not matte, super matte. On the thinner side, easy to shuffle. It's not top quality indie cardstock, but it's not bad at all either. There is seems to be a bit of a core and a snapback to these cards. I think the place also where it shines is the guidebook here. As you can see, you get a full color illustration. These illustrations are bigger than, well, maybe not. No, they're about the exact same size as the card. Chock full of information. As you can see. And I can't wait to work with this in depth. All right, so that was my red feather decks. Now, that's not to say that in a subsequent video, I'm not going to come back with decks I missed. I really tried to look at all my decks to look for red feather, but as I'm going to show you now, I missed 2 or 3 U.S.Games decks, which I'm going to show you now because they are in my collection right now. So we are segueing to U.S.Games decks that I missed. And I don't want to do a whole video on these because there's only 2 or 3. The first one is 8 Coins Tattoo Tarot by Lana Zellner. And this comes in a wonderful 2-piece box. Very sturdy. It has one of those little sheets. And these are extra, it comes with extra art cards. The cards that didn't quite make it into the deck, so I just set those aside. This one has a wonderful book. And again, the insert's nice because the cards won't go sliding. Now, the book is super chunky, and it is a little bit, you can see it is separated. They have tabs in the book, which is quite nice. You get the huge picture. You get a good amount of, at least a page of material for each card. And it's the same with the minor arcana. Beautiful, beautiful book. But these cards, if you like tattoo art, now I don't have the Bonefire. I got this one because it was super cheap. You know, it's very affordable mass market deck. The backs, for as intricate and as colorful as the fronts are, the backs are very very simple. The cardstock is a nice, there's got a little bit of a coating. It's not super matte, but it's pretty much matte. Easily shuffleable. There is each card, there's a drawing number on it. So this is card number, drawing number 42. Very whimsical. Now, I would say the tattoo or the Bonefire Tarot has a little bit more of traditional tattoo imagery in it from what I've seen of it. But this one is quite good, quite colorful. I like the up close and personal nature of this deck. Some of the cards are pippish, but they are, you know, fully illustrated pips. This King of Swords reminds me of the portrait of Richard III. I don't know if you're familiar with Richard III. The portrait, and they did dig up his bones. They found out where his bones were years ago and did all the DNA testing. The Richard III Society funded it. They found his body. They did the DNA testing and found out it was him. And they took the skull and they did that kind of digital imaging, you know, where they put the muscles on the skeleton, and they had a sculptor make a life-like plaster of, you know, a torso, not a torso, a head with hair and eye color that they were able to determine from the DNA testing. And it was weird to see how similar the sculptor's rendition and the painting was of Richard III. And this just reminds me of Richard III. Now everybody go look up a picture of Richard III. But I love the images. I haven't used this deck quite a lot, and I'm looking at it and I'm thinking, why not? I need to. I very much like the images, and I would like to have, because I like tattoo art. I had the the Tattoo Tarot, another mass market deck, and I that left my collection because it was more pippish. And I found that I like this one more, but I would like to add the Bonefire to my collection and Jamie Sawyer's Path Tarot to my collection. Because I have a big tattoo on my arm, and I do love this art. I find it very vibrant and full of life. All right, so that is the 8 Coins Tattoo Tarot by U.S. Games. The creator is Lana Zellner. I'm starting to get decks all over the place. Now, the next one is an Oracle deck, which I missed. And it's because it doesn't look like the typical U.S. Games deck, and that's why I missed it. It's the Mystic Sisters Oracle deck by Emily Balavé. Beautiful guidebook, but you don't get any pictures in here. It's very standard. You get some spreads, but it's very beautiful. The cover is. And these are the beautiful backs. And these are the cards. And I'm looking for the perfect deck to pair this with. I've been looking in my collection. I got this secondhand at my used bookstore, but I could tell that it hasn't been used. I mean, there's no wear whatsoever. She looks like Zelda Fitzgerald to me here. She really does, with her bob and her facial features. I find this a very beautiful, mesmerizing deck. And it was super cheap. I think I picked it up for $7.99. But this is readily available, mass market U.S. Games Deck. You can get on Amazon. It almost looks like the art's been done by different artists, but I don't think it has. It's a newer one to my collection, so I haven't really worked with it because I am looking for that tarot deck that will, you know, read well with this. But if anything, these are great altar cards. I do love the imaging and the artwork in this deck. The cardstock is very, very nice. You can easily shuffle this. You know, they're standard oracle size, different color borders. As you can see, it's a very, very colorful deck, and I love the Art Nouveau. Again, 1920s kind of feel here. Beautiful, beautiful. Oh, I love this. Yeah, I'm going to have to move this up on my working list, what to work with, because it is, yeah, it's easy to shuffle. Yeah, I have not had this in my collection very long. It's a new, oh, look at this. Again, Zelda Fitzgerald. All right, so that is the Mystic Sisters Oracle deck, and I can't remember one more deck if I missed this or not. Maybe I put it in my video. I can't remember. But it is the Deviant Moon, and I'm going, how could I forget this? I think, you know, because I keep some of my decks in bags, but you all know this deck very well. I have the borderless edition. It's back in order. Sometimes after I use a deck and I cleanse it and put it back in order as a way to cleanse the deck after it's had heavy use. But you all know this deck. I haven't used it. I thought I was going to use it this fall, but I haven't yet. I did use it last fall quite a lot. But you are all familiar with this. If you're not, though, here they are. Great shadow work deck. Very confronting deck. This deck, a lot of people have a visceral reaction to looking at the images on this deck. You love it or hate it. It's one of those type of decks. But I feel if you give it a chance, I think you can really get a lot out of working with this deck. Not the typical imagery that I go for, my aesthetic. But I am so happy that I decided to push forward and use this deck and get this deck. It kind of called out to me when I was starting out my tarot journey, and when I was looking at, you know, my first tarot decks, they were more whimsical in nature. And this was totally not, you know, something that it really kind of creeped me out, in all honesty. I thought it very, very dark. And indeed, the images, you know, they give you a very visceral reaction, especially the first time you know, when you first start working with it. But it is worth the effort. But if it, you know, thank goodness there's so many decks that out there, because if one doesn't work for you, you know, there'll be another one that you can use for shadow work that you prefer. Yeah, you know, if you've been on my channel long enough, you know what my aesthetic is and what I like. Even though I think I have a diverse, you know, as far as artwork, it's pretty diverse. Sometimes I have some cutesy decks. I love vintage art. I love collage decks. I have some modern, you know, picture decks. And so, yeah. Yeah, this deck, I need to work with it this winter. I'm like missing it. I'm missing it, you guys. So those last 3 decks were decks that I missed in my U.S. Games video. Okay, almost forgot one. See, it's so easy to do. You know, when I've got my decks in in different places. But this is the Everyday Enchantment Tarot by Poppy Palin. One of my favorites because as far as modern decks, it is very inclusive. I believe Poppy Palin is from the UK, and it's the only thing I don't like about this box. You know, sometimes trying to get these out. I'll take some of them out. The Everyday Enchantment Tarot. Okay. This deck is so wonderfully inclusive. This is a little bit funny. This reminds me of the Village People right here, but Poppy Palin's in the UK. This is a deck that's showing modern day life depictions with a little bit of magic. See the little sprites, spirits there. Oh, and the beautiful, beautiful, beautiful backs. This has one of my favorite lovers cards ever. But you see the realism in her artwork, and I'm going to go down just a little bit more. Some people, I've seen this deck trimmed because the borders are large, but I do like that they're color-coded. This, as far as lovers. I love how they have an older couple in the forefront. They've got young love here. They've got animal love here. I love, it looks like almost the spirit is casting a love spell for this person back here. There's swans in the back. This is my favorite lovers card in all my decks right here. It is a large deck. This is oracle size. The cardstock is super nice though. It's a nice matte satin, I would say, but look how that covers my hand. So it is definitely oracle size, but this deck is everything. And when I got it, I used this exclusively. I haven't used it in a little bit because I'm, you know, as I get decks, I'm trying to use them. And I like to use them for a while, you know, no less than 2 weeks with a new deck. Usually it turns out to be about 3 weeks. But you see the, I love this deck card too. Love, love, love this deck card. I use this deck so much. I keep thinking I'm going to maybe edge it with different colors, but I haven't yet. It's a very interesting moon card here. But this is the Everyday Enchantment Tarot by Poppy Palin. One of my favorites as far as depicting modern day life and for its diversity. This one is at the top of the list, I would have to say. At least in my collection. You know, I know there's other decks that I don't have. But as far as representing, you know, everyday life, and again, she is a UK artist. So I think this is depicting life in the UK as she knows it from her perspective. But I think it's wonderful. Great modern depiction in this tarot deck. So thank you for watching. That was a look at my red feather decks and a couple of holdovers from my U.S. Games videos, decks. My U.S. Game Deck videos, I should say. So thank you so much for watching, and I will be back with another video, another look at my deck collection real soon. Bye for now.